This show is sponsored by Bitonic. Invest in Bitcoin with ease.
Connetti il mondo.
Fabian, Illuminodes, El Salvador.
Surfing isn't just a sport, it's a lifestyle, a rhythm, and sometimes a reason to miss meetings. Would you cancel a Zoom call with President Bukele if the waves were just right?
No.
Indonesian food is full of flavor, fire, and fried wonders. But be honest, do you secretly judge people who say sambal is too spicy?
Yes.
Tron, Legacy didn't win over every critic, but it sure created a stunning digital world. Did you watch it and think, I'd live in that neon grid if I could?
Yes.
Water might not be the most rock and roll drink, but it keeps the engine running. Have you ever tried going out a whole day in El Salvador without reaching for your bottle?
No.
From Ride the Lightning to Master of Puppets, Metallica's been shaking speakers for decades. Is it still your go-to pump-up soundtrack even on mellow beach days?
Yes.
Your favorite holiday destination is everywhere. But is there one place you visited that actually made you want to stay forever, even just for a week?
No.
Change your questions, change your life. Sounds more like a mantra than a read. Has that mindset actually shifted how you make big decisions?
Yes.
You've worked on projects bringing Nostr to healthcare in El Salvador. Do you think decentralized tech will soon become just as normal in hospitals as stethoscopes and hand sanitizer?
Yes.
You were born Dutch, but you live in El Salvador. Do you now feel more at home in the surf zones of La Libertad than in a windmill-covered polder?
Yes.
Are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
No.
Welcome to the Connected World Weekly Podcast. I'm Edward.
And I'm Steph. We are ready to take you with us into the beautiful world of the Lightning Network.
Enjoy the ride. This is episode 141 of Connected World, and this show is made possible by our friends from Bitonic and BRINGIN. Thank you guys for helping us with our mission to connect the world with Bitcoin through the Lightning Network. And of course, if you also want to help out with our mission, then follow us on X, subscribe with our YouTube channel, follow us on Nostr, or if you have any questions at all, you can ask us anything in one of our Telegram groups. And of course, a donation is always welcome.
Verbinden die Welt.
Fabian, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Welcome.
There you go. Thank you for inviting me.
Good.
And I love your background.
Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Of course. It's Nostr purple.
No, yeah, it's even Nostr purple, yeah. This,
Yes, it is.
It's nice. It's nice. Hey, Indonesian food, Fabian. I mean, you're in El Salvador. You live in El Salvador. Your favorite food is Indonesian. We live in Holland. You're a fellow Dutchie, and I can tell that Indonesian food is perfect here in Holland. But how is it in El Salvador? Is there any even?
There is some, but it's definitely not as available as in Holland. So, I have to go and get stuff. So one of my biggest things is to get sambal bajak van Koningsvogel. That's my favorite.
Yeah. It's also one of my favorites actually. They sell it here just at the Albert Heijn, the biggest supermarket. Yeah. So, but do you have like tokos, like the small merchants, like we have here in
shops? But there's nothing like that.
No, okay. So, but
Dutch pancakes.
Well, pupusas, pancakes. I mean, there are some similarities, right?
Mm.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And
go on.
Yeah. You also lived in Australia, I was told.
Many years.
For many years.
Yeah, I haven't lived in Holland for over 30 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
But
Okay. So you can't talk Dutch anymore.
I can't talk Dutch anymore.
30 years, man.
Yes.
That's a long time.
yeah, that's really a long time. But how was the Indonesian food in Australia then? Because you're giving yourself a hard time picking Indonesian food as your favorite, right? But it was good, yeah, of course, because Australia and Indonesia are close
Very
by.
close to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So okay.
Hey, and I was thinking the Metallica question. You probably have seen Metallica live one day, right?
No, never.
No,
Never.
really?
Never.
Oh,
I'm not a
man.
concert kind of guy. It's too many people.
Okay. So how do you listen to your music? Just at home or on the road?
Yeah, or on headphones, all the standard stuff. Yeah, so I'm to be perfectly honest, I mean, I'm not a big music fan. I like working too much. But yeah, from very young, I remember being in the army in Holland and getting introduced to it. And it's definitely some very, very heavy and also, I guess, deep music, I think.
It is.
So I think I like
layered.
that.
Yeah.
But you picked Tron Legacy as your favorite movie, so and I saw you type this, and then I thought, well, favorite music could be Daft Punk because they made a whole album.
Of course,
I think they make the soundtrack even of the movie, right?
They did. Yeah, I don't know. The movie is. I guess first of all, I lived in the US when the first Tron movie came out. And then Tron Legacy, I think, is literally a beautiful movie. It is beautiful sound, beautiful visuals. It's probably very slow from a lot of people's perspectives, but I've probably seen it like 40 times. So. Oh,
really? That's crazy, man. Yeah, I think I'm in doubt. Maybe they might be also. I think they also created the sound design for the movie, right? Daft Punk. I think they did it all.
Yeah, everything. They did the score. They did the even the sound designs, like you said. Inside the movie, it was. Yeah, as I said, it's a very, very beautiful movie.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, I really love Daft Punk. I think Daft Punk. I went to one of their concerts here in the Heineken Music Hall in Amsterdam, and I think that might be the best ever concert I've visited personally. So and I've been to a lot of different stuff also. So the concert they gave was one of the best I've ever visited. So
they're so unique.
Yeah, man. It's so crazy. And they did it was the Alive album, and they did all their old tracks, but they put them all in some kind of remix with each other. So they combined different parts from different tracks together to make a whole new track. And I did some music production in the past, so. I'm always working and listening at the same time when I'm visiting a concert. And I was mind blown. I never have had that experience before. Just a combination of two completely different tracks, and then they combine it to one. I can't. Yeah, it's so amazing.
But that's great because a lot of people know the songs from back in the days, and then they they give something totally different. Yeah. So it's not just playing music; it's just something new.
No, but
they compose. They are.
Yeah, they compose. Yeah, and it makes it fun for them also.
But the difference was that a normal concert, then just the artist is playing an album and they do some tricks every now and then. But this was a concert of completely existing songs, but they were all completely remixed altered and in a different style, but you recognized every part. But it was a crazy experience because there were so many similarities from tracks that you already knew, but then it was new and it was mind blowing. So if you have never seen that concert, I would say it's all on YouTube. I think there was a live recording in Paris that they put online, and it's really worth a watch. It's so fantastic, and it's the best.
Really experience, Edward.
Sorry?
I think it really impacted him that
Yeah, it really did. It really did. But
But I totally understand that. I've been to a lot of festivals back in the days, and Radiohead, for example. That there are so many great music to watch live, and live it's totally different. It's just an experience. So for us it's a real thing, but for me it's a long time ago now.
Hey, we're not making a music podcast, guys, so we need to shift
I
back
know
to
nothing about music, just if it's nice.
Yeah, we need to shift back to Fabian and Illuminodes. And before we head into the 21 minutes, Fabian, we would like to know a little bit more about your background, because, well, we already told that you've lived in Australia, and you were born in the Netherlands, and now you live in El Salvador. What made you move to El Salvador and start Illuminodes there specifically?
I think, the world's changing. It's changing a lot. I think, to be perfectly honest, the Western world is on the decline, and Australia is definitely part of the Western world. So is the Netherlands, by the way. And, the global South, as they say, is on the up. So if you think about where the future is going to be, where do I want to put my time, my effort, my family, my children? Do I want to put them into a world that is on the decline, or do I want to give them an opportunity where the world is on the up? And that applies to family, that applies to education, that applies to building and building companies and stuff like that. So, I think that's the answer. I believe, from my perspective, that's El Salvador. As I keep on saying to everyone, El Salvador is probably the epicenter of the new global financial and technological paradigm. I think that's happening here. So that's pretty excited to be in that, on that journey in that country. And so we got a one-way ticket and say, let's see if we can make something happen. And here we are. So
from someone with such an enormous experience, it's interesting. So it's better than Silicon Valley then.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's something to say.
Silicon Valley is old.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes us very curious.
Silicon Valley is very, very old. And having been in the IT industry, I don't know, I was, programming
more than 2 decades, right?
Like programming basic when I was 12, and have seen it from a business side, very much from a business side. Yeah, this is Silicon Valley is old. That's old thinking, old technology, old everything. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, we want to know all about Illuminodes, Fabian, but it has to be in the 21 minutes. So if you are ready, we surely are, then we want to enter the 21 minutes. Are you ready?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. The 21 minutes is brought to you by BRINGIN, the app to reliably sell and spend Bitcoin from any wallet. Let's set the scene a little bit and start with what your mission is. You've described the last few years as a wake-up call for many people. Why do you believe self-sovereignty and self-custody of identity is just as important as self-custody of money? And what has it to do with Illuminodes, sorry.
Well, like I said, I think the Western world is hitting the top. I think it's actually something that happens over and over and over in humanity. We go to extremes and we just get to this point where we just destroy ourselves because we're just lazy. We get lazy, maybe even as humanity. And then, you get so lazy that things start to crash and fall around you because of all the things and structures and things that you've built around yourself. And we fall back, not all the way to where we started, but we fall back with this new set of knowledge, and we're going to rebuild again. And I think, as I said, the Western world is definitely, starting to crash. But we've learned a lot over the last 100 years, let's say. So now with that new knowledge, we have the ability to say, okay, well, that didn't work, right? So Yes, with what we know and what doesn't work, let's start building the new stuff. And I think that's where we're at. And I think one of the big things is that we're realizing that too much centralization is destroying things. Don't think it's the first time that we've realized this as humanity. So too much centralization is destroying things. So with that in mind, we're now building the new tools and the new technologies that allow us to actually get to that next level of evolution again. And we're seeing that obviously with things like Bitcoin, where we're now separating money and state. That is something that hasn't existed before, really, since we had money. And now we're also starting to realize that we need to separate, our information, our data, because that is just as valuable. Our data, our information is who we are, what we are. And we definitely live in a digital world. And if someone else controls that, that's just as crazy as controlling someone's money or your money. So I think it sort of goes hand in hand, money and state separation, your digital identity, your digital data, separating that from, centralized forces as well. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it surely did. And then, we'll shift to Illuminodes. In short, what is Illuminodes and what is your mission?
So what we're doing is we're basically building on open source technology, decentralized open source technology that is protocol only based, that is not controlled by anyone, that is not owned by anyone, that is not managed by anyone. Bitcoin is not controlled by anyone. There's no committee, there's no company, there's no CEO, etc. And Nostr is the same story. Nostr is just a protocol, just like you've got TCP IP protocols that anyone can use and anyone can build on and anyone can create things on that no one controls. And so that's what we're doing. So we're building on those open source technologies and I guess opening up the world and making it more honest, I guess. Maybe ever since I was a kid, I don't like people telling me what to do. So I want to have the choice of what to do. And I think that comes with this technology and that comes with Bitcoin as well.
That's true, because Nostr gives you a choice that is much broader than which algorithm to use on social media or something. So with Illuminodes, you build something on top of Nostr, you use the Nostr protocol. Yeah. Was there a personal experience or moment that made you focus specifically on medical data space? Because it can, of course, be used for a lot of other identity problems.
Yeah, I've been in the medical software industry for quite a while. I've been probably almost 10 years in Australia. So I've seen firsthand what cloud-based centralized technologies are like, how they work, how absolutely insecure they are, how much control others can put on them. So I've seen it on the inside. Being a Bitcoiner on top, you go like, I don't think that's the way the world should work, but there's no way that I can actually change that in Australia. So again, one of the reasons that I would have said, okay, let's go to El Salvador and see what we can do over here. And that's been an amazing journey. So I have exceeded on the inside. I've been in the IT industry all my working life, basically. And I've seen the change, I mean, I don't know if you remember IRC and things like that, Internet Relay Chat, those things where it was still peer-to-peer.
Yeah, I've used that a lot.
Yeah. I've always been very much a peer-to-peer type person. I still am, by the way. Let's not tell everyone, but you know what I'm trying to say.
And you have kids, right? You told us.
Sorry?
You have kids, right?
I do. But I've also seen the whole centralization movement, and I was actually part of it. I was a person promoting that at some points as well. So, why do you need to run everything from the inside? You can put it in the cloud.
I think maybe to elaborate a bit, maybe it's if you work in IT, I used to do also. It's very normal to think about more than just the technical side of it, and just to make it more manageable, or the business side of it. Then you tend to look at centralized solutions. It's not the only solution though, but I think it's just something. If you work a lot in IT, you just choose for the easy solution, perhaps.
Yeah.
And those are the biggest ones. So
I think so too. And it's definitely, the user aspect is to be perfectly honest, probably 90% of the actual solution itself. I mean, technology is great, but if the users can't use it, then what's the point? So I agree. And I think, obviously the technology that we're working with and internet technology and how we do things has changed so much so that we now have come to a point where it is actually doable and valuable even. I mean, in my mind, I can see scenarios where what we're building is going to be far more beneficial to the user and easier for the user than the centralized technologies that we're used to.
Yeah, but I think it's a fair point. I think we didn't have technology over the past few years to build this, and now we are at a point that we can make this choice of people bringing back the data to the people that they are the rightful owner of their own data, obviously.
And there's benefits to it as well for them, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the big things that you have to watch out with technology is that you don't build it for the sake of building it because you can. You need to actually solve, and I keep on saying this to every single podcast and panel discussion that I have, you have to solve business cases. You have to build around, something that needs to be fixed or can be better or something like that. You can't just do it from, there's a new technology, let's build something on it and expect people to use it. It needs to have value. It needs to have value beyond just the technology itself.
Yeah, you've said in an earlier interview and also some talks that patients and even doctors have zero control over medical data. This is mind-blowing, in my opinion, by the way. What are the most common or dangerous consequences of this lack of control?
I think I did like a presentation or something like that. I think the amount of mistakes that are made by data that is not right or has been manipulated or is not associated with the right people is amazing. There's a lot of people that actually die in the world because of this, because we don't have a good way of actually connecting data to the individual, etc.
And you mean human error?
Yeah, human error is big, very, very big. But also data errors, because look, at the end of the day, the data that we have now is not secure. It is not. It's literally a database sitting in a back end somewhere, and if you want to access it, you can. So there's no way to actually really lock in that it is the original true data that we actually shared at some point. There's many, many ways that it can break and can be manipulated, etc. So there's a lot of I think I think it's about 10 to 20% data accuracy, as in like error rate. I did speak to someone that has been in the health industry for way longer than me, and he reckons it's like in the 90%, the amount of
That's
data.
Frightening, I guess.
Huh?
That's frightening. I guess that's a huge amount.
Yeah. So that's a bad thing, which means it has an impact on how we do analysis on the data. It has an impact on the truthness of the analysis. It means that our data is just faulty for our decision making, right? So there's a lot of problems that come out of that. And there's also people that get therefore misdiagnosed and lots of problems that come with that. I mean, actually, you saw this thing on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it the other day, or X, whatever you want to call it, where someone actually said because they did not have access to their data, and the doctor didn't see one test or something like that.
Yeah.
He was advised not to go and do this chemo thing, and as a result, they were going to give him more chemo and destroy him more whilst everything was working well, right? So,
oh man, yeah. Those are very frightening.
Look it up.
Things.
There's a lot of issues in the health industry.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hey, and Fabian, can you describe how it works at this moment then when navigating centralized medical systems? You just described a little bit about the problems, but why is this loss of control so widespread, even in developed countries? Because we, of course, trust the system. But why? Why is it?
I think it has a lot to do with that people don't care. So in other words, and they probably don't care because they know they can't do anything about it.
And you mean the IT side of people?
No,
or
I'm talking about
just the users.
The users, and the people that creates the information, like the providers, the MRI people or the doctors or the pathology people. It's not their thing.
No, that's right. Yeah.
We just create the information. We are not the ones that want to manage it or worry about it or anything like that. So it's a big task to manage data. So I think they don't care. And I think then on top of that, it's also an extremely valuable resource to the people that do care about the data. So in other words, they don't want to let go because it is so unbelievably valuable. So they just make the lives of the providers and the patients as easy and as smooth as possible, whilst they can just do whatever they want with it. That's my view.
Yeah.
Is it also because of we heard a lot about a lot of systems that doesn't work together? So somebody uses an old system, some hospital or something that just isn't interoperable.
Yeah, interoperability is a massive thing, of course. I think that's still in the IT industry a massive thing, not just in health, but interoperability is a big thing. They're trying to do that, I think, with things like in the USA with HIPAA and stuff like that. I don't know if you've looked at what we're doing. There is a global standard that's been around for almost 30 years called the HL7 FHIR standard. Exactly. Yeah. I remember actually being in Australia when this first got introduced because it came out of Australia in the beginning.
Yeah.
And but it's being used more and more and more around the world, in Europe, in the US, in Canada, in Australia, etc. And the thing is, it's also an open thing, right? It's an open standard. There's no centralized body. It's an open standard of how we communicate and structure health information when in a digital way so that we can communicate with each other. And what we're doing is we're actually integrating that into our health protocol, so that by design, every single bit of data that comes out in our health protocol format will be able to speak to each other, but also speak to the traditional systems that actually have that as well. So in other words, it standardizes according to a global standard that's been used for 30 years already. That makes it, that lifts, say, a developing country like El Salvador to get to this standard, and at the same time still allows all these data points and data interactions to be working with the old-fashioned world and the old-fashioned systems.
Yeah, and you're talking about Salute Protocol, right?
Yeah, so I had to give it a name, right? So the idea is that we created this what we call Salute Protocol. And why salute? Because salute is the Spanish word for health. So in other words, the say Ministry of Health is the Ministry of Salud here. And then I made the acronym saying Sistema de Administración libertad único y descentralizado. So in other words, administration system that is to the unique individual, about freedom and decentralized.
Perfect. Great find.
So yeah, it's I thought it would be a nice acronym to see if we can do something with it.
It sure is.
And how does it technically work then when a patient wants to share just part of their data or with a doctor or insurer? So
as you know, with Nostr, you've got your public and private keys. And, basically you share with your public and private keys. So in other words, let's say a pathology test comes in. You become the owner of that pathology test. You own the keys as a patient of that pathology test, and it is up to you to actually give someone else access to that particular bit of data. And because of the fact that you're the owner, then all of a sudden you can choose what you want to share or what you don't want to share. And I think I keep on referencing a conversation that I had with someone in the someone that was talking about, what about, insurance companies, they need my data. And I said, yeah, they do, but they don't need 100 points of your data. They need 5 points of your data.
Yeah.
Right? Why do they need to have my whole identity to just pay me out an insurance fee or whatever it is? So we're changing. The idea is that we're giving people the choice to do with what they want to do with their own data.
Yeah, and you guys had a partnership with Paravida Hospital. What's actually live today in terms of functionality? How is the partnership going?
So the partnership is going well. I have to be extremely grateful because these people believed in our crazy story. We wanted to make it a situation where it's a real world implementation. I mean, technologically speaking, architecturally speaking, we know what we're building and we know what we want to build, but it is about how does that work in the real world with real doctors and real hospitals and real patients and stuff like that. And they were willing to go down this crazy pilot path with us. They're obviously a very open-minded and innovative type thinking organization. And that's what we've been doing. So we finished the phase 1 is where the hospitals and the doctors communicate with each other through Nostr messages, through Nostr identities, with FHIR message structures integrated, all that kind of stuff. They have no clue, by the way, what Nostr is.
I was thinking about it,
So they have no idea. They just know that the way that things are working now in their administration and their room bookings and all that kind of stuff is way better than it was before. And
so they feel the usability and not the well, but that's normal for users, right? The back end is just a hassle. It needs to work, but they want it to be better, of course. Hey, and with Nostr, for our listeners who use Nostr, you own your own keys, but what happens if someone loses their keys to their health identity? How do you balance sovereignty with accessibility, redundancy?
This is a good question.
Yeah, you don't want to lose it, right?
No, you don't. And look, the funny thing is the next health in bit information can become on a new set of keys, right? So it's not like everything is lost. But so this is a good question. This is a very good question because how will people interact with this? How will there be ways to maybe come up with, like a multi-sig scenario where you have other people look after your keys as well? So it's a very big question.
Yeah, but what's the you don't have the answer for that.
I don't.
Fabian doesn't have an answer.
I can come up with a whole bunch of answers.
Oh, of course.
But I don't know what's going to work best in the real world, and that's the reason we're doing this in this way. That we're doing it in a real world pilot in a real world scenario. So
but it's the same with Bitcoin, right? I mean, being your own bank brings responsibilities, right? So you have to take back the responsibility from your legacy bank, or in this case, from your medical institution, or maybe
it's a mind shift.
Exactly, and you need to think. Now people are kind of asleep, right? So they're just asleep, and everything is handled for them. But in the new world, or in this world, you have to be in order to be self-sovereign, you need to take back control, and you need to think about this. But it's the same with Bitcoin. You need to think about inheritance. What happens when I die, or what happens when I die, but my wife too, and we are only the only ones who took after our private keys. And what about the children?
And the beauty is that comes with that, and this is something I realized just the other day, that people that actually have good access to their own information and their own health information actually become more interested in it as well. So as a result, you've got people walking around with watches that actually give you all that information.
Health measurement,
exactly.
Yeah.
So if we by design give access to that in a very easy application on your phone or whatever it is for all that health data that comes in, then by choice, people seemingly become more interested in their own health. So just by being able to do that now, we've hopefully actually improved health already, because now
I think it's true, because now you can only share everything or nothing, and if you can choose parts of the data to share, well, that makes you think, oh, I can choose now. That's new.
So I can see a whole industry that's where on top of this, there could be all these applications that people can build and download on their phones from their own health data. And they can be interested, I now have access to this. Right now, they don't. So I can, look, this is exciting. I can do stuff if I do change this and change that. So where ownership brings, I guess, growth, because now we want to. Yeah.
Connect the build.
Yeah, I have so many more questions for you, Fabian.
me too. I was just.
It's a very interesting topic, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Zoveel hebben we aangeraakt, weet je?
That's correct.
Absolutely true.
And we're not done yet, Fabian, because we have still one question left for you. But the funny thing is, you may choose yourself. So we pre-recorded 2 questions. One from Paul Keating, and he's from Primal.net. And we have one from Lucas Ferreira, and he's from BRINGIN. You may choose. Go ahead.
I would say go with Paul, right? I mean, he's
obviously. Obviously. That's why Edward put him in, right, Edward?
Of course. I thought, Fabian, come on.
Let's go with Paul.
Okay, here comes our friend Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul from Primal, and I want to ask how many times you've used Bitcoin in the past week.
Oh, it's a Bitcoin question. Wow.
Of
how
course,
many times did you use Bitcoin in the past week, Fabian?
I don't know. I only use Bitcoin.
Well, all the time, Paul.
That's the perfect answer.
Yeah, but for someone who's living in El Salvador, this is the only answer we would expect, right?
I'm gonna keep this question in, because it's so it's a great one to ask everyone.
That's correct. Hey, thanks, Fabian, for now.
Yeah, thanks again.
Where can people follow you? Because I can imagine that a lot of people who are now listening are thinking like, "Whoa, what the hell? What have I just learned? I want to learn more about the project, about Salute Protocol, maybe even, but also about you. So maybe you can tell us where where people can follow you personally on Nostr, and about the project."
Obviously, you can find us on our website, www.illuminodes.com. Pretty standard. And you can just search the name Illuminodes on the internet. It probably pops up. And if you really want to know a lot more, just put in Fabian and Illuminodes, and there'll be tons of videos and interviews and stuff that we've been doing over the last couple of years. So, I mean, it's there's a lot out there. So, and by the way, we really loved, for people to reach out, ask questions. We're getting people, from the medical industry saying, "Oh my goodness, this would be so good if we can make this happen." So we'd love support. We'd love insights. We'd love, everything.
Hey, one last question. Are you also searching for developers to help out?
Obviously, always looking for developers.
Okay, great.
Yeah, very much so. Looking for money, always, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
The idea behind the Salute protocol is that we build this and give it away to the world. So where people in the world can build on top and make things that we didn't even knew existed or could exist. So that's the idea.
Well, thanks again, Fabian. And for everybody listening in, thanks. And of course, thanks to everyone helping to connect the world with us. So if you like our content, then please support us in our mission. Visit our website, connecttheworld.live, where you can also make a donation and subscribe, like, and share our content on your favorite platform. So remember, we need you to complete our mission, connect the world. So keep those nodes running, sats flowing, and check, of course, Illuminodes. And see you all next week on the same Lightning channel. Tot ziens.
Fabian.